Hello everyone. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about revising fiction. You know, editing your work is one of the more difficult things of writing. A lot of people like to write, but they don't like to go back and edit and rewrite and rework. It's extremely difficult. You know, you get this perfect character that says the perfect things in the perfect setting in your mind, and then you have to go back and rethink all of that. Not an easy thing to do, especially again when you get to the end of the book and you just think it's perfect, and guess what? It's not. So the best works that I've ever done, even in the nonfiction world, but specifically talking about the fiction, is whenever I have gone back and reworked things. And so in Hydra was my first fiction book. I started Hydra at a very different time in my life, back in 15 years before I actually published the book. So around 2010, I was trying to write this book, and it had the same characters, but the characters at that time, I had an idea about how the book would flow around the main character and his wife, James Wats. And but at that time I was I was calling James Watson was his last name. My middle name is Watson. I came up with that because, and I guess I've always been a fan of Sherlock Holmes, so Dr. Watson. And I gave James a doctorate behind his name. So Dr. Watson was something I used throughout the first version of Hydra. And so when I turned this over to a developmental editor, someone who had plenty of experience, and he just said point blank, this is not working in this book. Every time I read Dr. Watson, I think of Sherlock Holmes. Well, that was not the purpose behind that book. And so I had to go back and rethink that entire character. His name, it got changed to Watts, and I took away the doctor. So James Wats had a master's degree in, I think, mechanical engineering, if I recall, versus a doctorate degree, and he has a totally different last name. So that is the challenge of editing and revising your fiction work, is you get this, again, everything is just perfect, you think, and you get the work finished only to have someone read it and say something like that, and you got to totally rethink it. And it can be quite difficult. But let me just tell you, folks, if that's all that they tell you that you've got to change, you're lucky. Because the changes that I had to make to that book were a lot more substantial than that.